Jesus said, the way is narrow. So it's to be expected that there aren't many Christians. Steps to God's salvation. Please consider, you know, that when you think of, if you're from the United States or maybe even other countries, if you think of or knew of the 80s, Jimmy Swaggart, and I don't remember everybody else, all these people being shown to be hypocrites. And Christians do the same thing. They'll say, I'm going to sin, quote, but that's okay, quote. It's called hypocrites. It's called hypocrisy. People want to find God. I think that most people just want to say they want to find God. They're not interested. You know, when you look at the Christians and the Jews and the Muslims and the Buddhists and all these people, you're going to find that they all whatever their thing is, they're always doing the same thing. They either make an excuse why we can't accept your God or any gods or, whatever. They're not, people don't deal honestly. And, Jesus Christ comes down and he just, he really had very few followers. In one place, his disciples are noted to be 12, not the apostles. It says the disciples and the apostles, they use them interchangeably. And in one place, there are 12 disciples. When Jesus dies and is resurrected, they fit in one room. If you want to come to Jesus, it gets to a point where you got to say, I want to accept what he's already put out there. Then you're on step to finding out who he is, what he wants, and salvation. And there are hypocrites galore. You'll notice them as hypocrites because if you see what I am and where I'm coming from, they're all pointing the finger at me. They point the finger at one another, but usually it's about squabbles. When somebody says, I want to follow God, you get a lot of finger pointing. People don't like it when you say, I want to do, or not do this wrong thing and not do that wrong thing. I want to seek what's right. It's when God turns you and says, I want to do the right thing rather than justifying myself. I've seen a lot on YouTube. People don't want to do the right thing. They want to make their enemy look like they're doing the wrong thing. They want to look like they're doing the right thing. When you are determined to say, I'm not going to do this wrong thing, and I'm not going to do that wrong thing, and I have to have an answer for my life. The Bible says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked way, I will hear from heaven and heal their land. Jesus said, Isaiah, he spoke to these religious people who did not know him, who were looking to stone him. The Bible says they picked up stones to stone him, and you got to be brave enough to when they pick up stones to stone you, and I know that's a big step for a lot of people, that you say, I won't do what's wrong. I want to do the right thing. That's God turning you, even to wanting to do the right thing, the Bible says, is God turning you to Him. You got to be open. You got to be desperate. You got to desire. Answers. Then God will come to you. The reason God hasn't come to people, the reason they don't have answers and God hasn't given them answers, the reason for the divorce rate among Christians being equal or really greater than among those who are not Christians is why? They haven't found God. You know, you got the man and you got the wife come together and they say they're both Christians. And yet then they say you have irreconcilable differences. The Bible says in Acts 2 they had all things in common. The Bible said in Acts 2 that no one considered anything their own, but those who had shared with those who didn't have. And you've got people that choose one another. In Acts 2 they didn't choose one another. They were all together and had everything in common. You've got these people, irreconcilable differences, and fighting over property. They don't know Christ and Christ doesn't know him. God has set a standard. And it's time for people who want to know God not to throw out the Bible per se, because that's a lot of cause for people to wrangle about rather than come to figure stuff out. Rather than saying, was God right or was God wrong? They say, was God evil? When you come to God's standard and you know what's right, it is God who has established. And this is something that I realize people aren't at a level to receive this message. But when they come to God, or they come to God's standard and they say, I will not do what's wrong, you can be turned into, I know it doesn't seem like it, I know it seems like it doesn't help. I know it's easier to do evil for people who are not born again. Jesus said in John 3, you must be born again. And that has been diminished. The miracle of what and who Jesus was and the fact that it was written down is diminished into these Bible-quoting hypocrites. There's nothing wrong with quoting the Bible. The problem is hypocrites. And when people come up with a problem in the Bible, they use it against God. God establishes what's right. If it's good, God has established it. Jesus said these people hardly hear with their ears and they have closed their eyes. Jesus said they are choosing ignorance. And it doesn't matter what people say about me. And it doesn't matter what people say about this message. It doesn't care if you can find 99.9% of the pastors and preachers and Bible scholars and teachers to be against me or disagree with me. What is right is what's right. And that's what God has established. Because the statistics are that you got pastors, admitting statistically of immorality, whatever, different types of, different immorality. And when you look to what is good, you're looking to what is God. When you can equate the words good and God and then realize you don't know what good is, then you're opening yourself up to know the way. The Christian, there's a sect, which I know not very much about, but there's a sect called the Way. But originally, they took it from the Bible. Originally, Christ's way was called the Way. They would say the people were going, more people came to the Way. When you stop just buzzing around and trying to fix everything by getting mad at people and fixing this and fixing that, when you stopped trying to do that, you're on some steps to salvation. People don't want it because they've decided they have the answers. When I had submitted to God and said, I don't have the answers, then salvation came. Jesus said, everyone on the side of truth listens to me. There was an uproar about those who followed Jesus and those who didn't follow Jesus. The Romans, they slaughtered them. Listen to me. Everyone on the side of truth listens to me. And I ask God that you would become a disciple and leave apart the nonsense